Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
If you live long enough and your parents live long enough, you're going to see an amazing thing happen. Your roles actually reverse, and you may become the worried caretaker, the person who's fussing at them and telling them to eat all their food, or you might even have to clean up after them if they have accidents. Because things change as we age. Some people, when they age, they might even become sickly or weakened or even be challenged with something like Alzheimer's. But your parents always remember that they're still your parents. And sometimes they can become obstinate and stubborn. And it can be frustrating when you, the adult, have to try to parent another adult. This is one of those things no one prepares you for. It just happens. And there's not a sudden time when it happens. You wake up and you realize that it has happened. So, we're going to talk about some of the things that you might want to prepare for if you haven't yet reached that point in your relationship with your adult parent. And we're going to talk about some of the things you might need to do in terms of getting help when it becomes too overwhelming. And we'll be joined by our dear sister, Dr. Wanda Carter, soon to be Dr. Wanda Carter, who is a media professional, television producer, and one who has experienced that role reversal of taking care of elderly parents. But first, sisters, let's take a look at what really happens when an elderly person gets to the point where you need to start taking care of them, and emotionally how that affects you, because they don't accept that role reversal very lightly.
I would like to speak on this real briefly because I remember when Mama was approaching her 80s, maybe she was already in her 80s, and it was tooth and nail to get her to make a will. And she was all about, as soon as you make a will, you die. And we're like, no, that's not true, but you need to have certain things taken care of. That was one step. But then I saw this commercial about Life Alert, one of those items that you wear around your neck so that if you are alone and you fall, you press a button and the emergency people are there to help you. Any kind of accident. And I remember when I approached Mama with that, do you know what she said to me? She goes, because I'm saying, oh, Mama, in case you fall, somebody might be out for a few minutes and not be there or can't get to you right away. And if you have this emergency call button, you have help immediately. Now, that was the year that I was training for my first marathon. And the weekend that we were doing 18 miles, I actually fell and was injured. So when I said the thing to Mama about falling, she goes, you the one falling. So she like totally
a mama thing to say.
yeah,
Yes.
and she totally blew me up. And I told her I had contacted the Life Alert people and explained to them how my mother was being so reticent. She was saying things like, this is going to take away my independence and I won't be able to get around like I want to. And really, and I'm going to lose the house if I have to have Life Alert. I mean, she was throwing up all these obstacles, and they told me that they get that all the time because elderly people don't want to relinquish what they think is their authority, and they feel like something is happening that they can't control, but they're going to still try to control it.
Yeah, and I find that also happens a lot of times. We were lucky because I think daddy had kind of stopped driving as much by the time he got really sick. And mama's sight had started to fail. So even though she had a license, she couldn't see enough to drive. So they stopped driving. But for a lot of adults, they find that their parents are loath to give up those car keys. And that's why you will see a lot of these accidents where they're elderly people. And because we're all in our 60s, we don't consider ourselves elderly yet, but you will see people in their 70s and 80s in some of these accidents, and sometimes they don't want to give up that independence. And so they drive a little slower, but you'll see that they have more banged up cars and those kinds of things. And so it's really hard for people to have to take the keys away from their parents. And that's one of those issues that we also have to deal with. Sometimes I remember 20 years ago we were talking about, they were calling it the sandwich generation, because you were trying to take care of your parents at the same time you were raising young kids. And so it's kind of like now when we get to, because we're a little bit older, uh we many of us have kids. Barbara, you have grandkids, but we still have parents that are older. We're all living longer, and we really still have to start thinking about how to go about uh, dealing with that obstinance before it becomes abusive. And I want to mention abuse because when I was working at the Daily Item in Lynn, we did a series on elder abuse. And I think some of that comes with the frustration of dealing with people who just don't understand that you're actually trying to help them, that you're not trying to hurt them, but they still want to be mama and they still want to be daddy.
Yeah, I think that that's pretty much the challenge that you face. It's a resistance to letting go of control, and it's the fear of what will happen if they admit that they don't really have the faculties that they used to have. Now, one good thing about daddy, I did a lot of the driving if he had to like go to his doctor's appointments and things like that. And he was okay with that, because then the
Yes.
fringe benefit was, after I'd taken where he has to go, then I could keep the car and do what I needed to do. But and since they didn't really go anywhere, it was okay. But it does get challenging when you have to do little things that kind of indicate that your parent needs to let go of controls of certain things.
Like when they're not as clean as they used to be, or their house doesn't stay clean,
Yeah.
or they start to forget bills, or all
Yeah.
these kind of indicators. And it's really difficult. I remember when I started doing mama's bills online. Well, see, she had been blind before the internet came out, so
Right.
she didn't understand that, because she was used to you
You
going, her
write
and
out the
daddy going
check,
out
you
and
go and pay it, and
pay it.
now
And
everything's
that
electronic.
and she didn't understand that. So what I did, I actually started paying my own bills online just so I could familiarize myself with
Right.
it. And then I could say, listen, I'm not going to take a dime from you. You have to trust that I am not going to take your money, because that's a real fear, that loss of control of the money, your kids taking things from you. And I said, you know what? I have money. I will never, ever take a dime from you. Never. And she had to trust me that that was going, that I, that I'm as good as my word. But that was a lot for her, because she's always been the one in control. And I see that with myself. I recently had toe surgery, and I really didn't want to bother Sean and Sarah about, okay, I need this. And Sarah said to me, Mama, you have to let somebody help you. Let
Yeah.
me know you're not a bother. Just, tell me what you need, because I just feel like, okay, it's a toe. But, if you
If
got to
you're not
stay in
supposed to
bed,
walk, then you
if you're
have
not,
to stay off it.
yes,
You
exactly. So
you
it's
have to.
funny. So I see that in myself and realize at some point it's going to happen to me, and I'm going to have to trust her that she will know what's best for me, even if I'm not sure.
Right. I mean, I think it's all in all of us. I mean, because I saw a little bit of it in myself. I tend to want to do everything. So all I can do, I don't need any help. And then I saw it in Zakia when she was getting ready to take a business trip abroad, and trying to do all these things. I'm like, well, let me help you. Let me help you. Let me go. And no, I can do it. I can do it. And finally, at the day she was about to leave, then we end up having to do all these runs that I could have done for her earlier. But then I saw, I said, that's me. And then
That's us.
that's us. This is us. Not wanting to let people help you, thinking that you have to do everything yourself, and not wanting to let go of control, and not wanting to appear weak or incompetent. Because I know
Yes.
with Mama, it was a big deal when I think we put a railing on the wall going to the downstairs, and she made a point to walk on the other side of the stairs to show that I don't need this railing. I mean, she did that at first when we put the railing in the bathtub, so you don't slip and fall. She made a point to use the other bathroom that didn't have the railing. So everything, like, I don't need that. This is gonna make me fall. I'm like, but you do, because the last thing you need to do is to trip and fall at an age where your bones get brittle and they could break.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that really starts at early onset of death is the constant falls and things like that. We had to put, my father-in-law, before he passed, he ended up in a nursing home. Well, he had been in independent living for a while,
Mhm.
and then I think he fell because they had one of the things in the bathroom where you could, ring the bell or something like that. And I think he had fallen. So they got to the point, they put him in rehab. He tried to get out of the bed there, and he fell, and he ended up having to go to a nursing home. He just couldn't take care of himself anymore. And so there was this gradual decline, and it's harder, especially for our culture, because we tend to want to stay at home. A lot of elderly people, they want to age in place, and our homes aren't always built to age in place. I know mine isn't. So it's one of those things we have to start thinking about. When the knees go, do you want to go all the way down the stairs to use the bathroom? Those kind of things. So we have to start thinking.
Yeah.
And so we have to start thinking about those things before it becomes a problem.
And you
And
have to also
yeah.
be willing to make a plan. I remember when we were looking at houses, one of the things my realtor, who happened to be a friend, said to me, if you get a two-story house, make sure that you have a main bedroom on the first floor.
Mm,
Because if something happens, say you have an accident and you need to stay off your feet, you can't be climbing stairs.
right.
And so you always want to make sure that you have a bedroom on the first floor of whatever dwelling you have, so that you are not having to be on the couch because your bedroom is upstairs. And I think another thing I realized, because I'm just 6 months away from turning 70 myself,
Wow.
and people never believe me there, and I say, oh, it's the Halle Berry makeup.
Yeah.
And all that. But then I realized Halle Berry's 50 already.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and she looks good too. But
Yeah.
when
It used
I
to be
go,
old, didn't it?
yeah, when I go to the doctor, one of the first questions she asked me is, have you fallen
Right.
lately? And
Right.
I'm
They
thinking,
do ask
now,
that.
why is she asking me that? I'm not doing any races. But
No.
that is one of the things that it happens. And when you fall at a certain age, you don't just pop up like a 3-year-old, have your
No.
boo-boo kissed, and you're all better. Sometimes that fall could be a serious injury.
That's true. And in fact, it's funny that you said that, because when I bought this house, I was in my 30s, I think. So I was still young enough to run down the stairs to go to the bathroom, because I don't have a bathroom on my first floor, or my top floor. I have one on the first floor and one in the basement. But my bedrooms are upstairs. And then I had toe surgery. And you saw me sitting on my behind, like I taught Sarah how to go down the stairs, and
Scoot.
bumping down the stairs to go to the bathroom because I could not
Oh,
walk. And it's like, okay, I can do this now because I'm 65. When I'm 75, this is going to really hurt. So,
You know your mother
so
would have said, you know what your mother would have said? They should have brought you a slop jar.
yeah, exactly. That's not happening. I don't do that. I don't do outhouses. Uh, but those are the things that we also have to think about. Like I said, aging in place when
hmm,
you get older. And am I going to have to get a stair, one of those chair stairs, stair
yeah.
climbers, to go up and down later on, or am I going to try to keep with the yoga and the Zumba and the tap dance and keep active as long as I can? But everybody's not going to be able to do that, and we have to start thinking about what are we going to do when it's time,
Yeah.
for us to either move to a place where it's all one level, or you know maybe put a half bath up here, or what we're going to do.
Mm.
Yeah, I remember. I guess it must have been a good 20 years ago, because Daddy was still here. So it was more than 20, maybe like
More than 20.
25 even.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Mama specifically said, I want to stay in my home and be independent. I want to stay in my home, and I'll just have maybe a caretaker come in.
Which of
Uh,
course she won't do.
yeah, so yeah, so then at that point she didn't trust anybody, so I became the caretaker. But she said, "Well, I got enough, daughters and grandchildren to help." So I'm like, okay, well, that's it. And I understand because, like Robert, you had mentioned earlier, what do other cultures do? I know some cultures have the designated child that's going to be the caretaker. Like I know, and some of my friends from Pakistan explained that
A lot
the
of times
wife
it's the
of the
it's the
eldest
oldest son.
son is the one
Yes.
who's going to take
Yeah.
care of the mother.
The
So you
same thing
already
in
had,
Japanese cultures too, I
Mhm.
think.
yeah,
A lot of times it's the oldest son who
yeah,
takes care of the parents,
right.
you know.
So now, if you don't have any children, you out of luck. But
Yeah.
Which is what
some
they
people
found
don't.
out in China with the one child rule.
Yeah, it's like,
They
oh,
had
Yeah.
what
they
to
had
do?
they there are
Now
there
you have what, 30,000 men who will never get married because there are no women.
there are no women,
Yeah.
and they have and there are more older people than there are young people to take care
Mhm.
of them. But also part of that is what other countries do. I mean, what other cultures do is that more you have multi-generational families, in
Yeah.
one household.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the grandparents are living, even in my neighborhood there's a lot of that. So the grandparents are living with the kids, and maybe when the kids grow up they live upstairs or something like that, and
Yeah.
they
You had
put
a
two
two-parent
family homes,
home.
and
Yeah.
and then so there's always somebody there to take care of the grandparents. But because we started with this nuclear family, it's mom and dad and the kids and nobody else, and like us, we didn't grow up around our grandparents, so we
Yeah.
Right.
didn't
Yeah.
have
They were down south. You
they were
spoke
down
to them
south
once a
because
year
of
on
the
the
great
phone.
migration. So a lot of
Mhm.
people, they did not have those multi generations living under one household who could help raise the kids, and then the kids help take care of the parents. So that, and you know what, we may end up going back to that because housing is just astronomically ridiculously priced,
Yeah.
so people can't afford to live on their own anymore. And I think eventually, we may have to go back to multi generations because nobody can afford to live on their own like they could.
And in some ways, that's a good thing because you
I
do
think
have
so.
you'll have less isolated seniors. I think one of
Hmm.
the biggest problems is the isolation that elderly people have because their children aren't living with them. Their children might move out of the city, out of the state, and so when they get to the point where they can't take care of themselves, they have to move into a senior home. And I know the senior homes, they try to make it fun and stuff like that, but sometimes, I mean, you
You
really need
just
your
want your
family.
family. You
Want your
just want
family.
your family, and it's really hard. And sometimes people just get busy, and it's just really hard to go and see that person every
Right.
week, or every, definitely not every day, but even every week or every month or every 2 weeks. And it just, life just gets in the way,
Yeah.
and so they're just like become like God's waiting rooms. And and it's a
Yeah.
terrible isolation, and that's why a lot of people want to age in place and they want to age in their homes. So I think it's one of those things you just kind of have to have that talk and understand that your parents may say something when they're in their 60s and then feel like something else when they're in their 80s and 90s,
Yeah.
you know because all of us have more years. Well, not me, but all of us have more years behind us than ahead of us.
I'm
Uh,
working on being 120, so I'm about
and I'm
halfway.
planning on being like, I guess right now that would be that. I think I'm going to be like 130 or something. So yeah,
I hope you
But
got
we
that
all,
wiggle cream ready.
The rest of us.
yeah.
But
So
you want to make sure that your parents have all of their effects in order. Like I was saying, Mama
yes,
was pretty resistant about doing a will. Like writing a will meant that you were leaving next week.
Well, that's what a lot of people feel. I mean, I'm
yes,
grateful that we've gotten past that. Well, now she's got the will, she's got the cemetery plot, and all of that, which can might kind of creep you out sometime. You go to visit Daddy's grave, and there's hers. Like, okay, just waiting for you to drop on in.
Been
But
in.
but
And
at least
Ron,
it
when he
was
was a
done.
little boy, said, "Oh, Grandma, you don't have the rest of the date in on yours." And she's like, "Well, I
and I said,
did
yeah, I said, there's a reason for that. Think about it. But that's the thing is that, and it's interesting that you know a lot of people are still superstitious. My husband does not want to talk about the end of life, and I try to bring it up after every funeral that
Yeah,
we have to go to. So I don't know where he wants to be buried. I don't know what's going to happen. We did do our wills, but the only reason why we did our wills is because
we have
when
a child.
Sarah was
Yeah.
well, when Sarah was a sophomore in high school, and she went to Paris and Rome, and
Hmm.
Sean wanted to go to Florida. And at first he said, well, um, he says, well, we I just want to wait by the phone. I said, we can wait by the phone in Florida too.
Yeah, they
So
got phones.
yeah. But I said, but I'm not leaving this state until we have something in place, because God forbid something should happen to us on a flight down or back. She should at least have something set up so that she would have a home to come back to. And he says, well, somebody will step in. This is what happens, people. If you do not have something in place for a minor child, don't count on your relatives to step in, because, like, if they can't, the state steps in.
Yeah.
Well,
That's what usually happens first. The state will step in, and then it becomes a real, and your kid may end up in foster care, even with relatives around, while they decide whether or not they can take. In the meantime, that's traumatizing. They've lost their parents, they've
Yes.
lost their home. And she
Yes.
was
yeah.
15, and I said, okay. And I think I talked to one of you all and said, can you come and live in the house and help
Yeah.
raise her?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
that's the thing.
you
It's
have to have that in place. I mean, every time I take a trip, and this might seem superstitious, but I mean, I lay out all of my life insurance information, and I just make sure all of my paperwork is available every time I take a flight,
Yeah.
just because, because I don't want the anxiety. Well, if something happens, I don't come back. You know, Zakia will be, frazzled. So, I mean, I even have all of my funeral information. I've written a
And you
program,
should probably have
obituary, and
like
all that stuff.
passwords and things like
Yeah,
that to get
the
into your
passwords,
bank accounts,
right.
things
You
like
know,
that, somewhere that
yes,
someone that you trust will be
can
able
get
to
into your
get to
things.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
all of my accounts, someone has information. Because the thing about it is, if you don't do it, then it becomes more stressful for the person who has to handle your affairs, have to try to find
Right.
your things, have to try to get into your your bank accounts, your emails, all those things. And when they can't, you have to go through so much producing paperwork and documents that show that you're the heir,
Yeah.
and they're deceased. You got death certificates. So it's so stressful. And as you know, I had a friend who, she was, and she appeared to be in good health, but then she had massive strokes and went to a coma. And before that time, one of our friends who was an insurance broker kept saying, get something in place, get something with, oh, somebody will handle it. Somebody will handle it.
Yeah.
Well, nobody handled it.
Did.
Yes. Yes.
And so when she unexpectedly transitioned, we had to pull things together, and none of her surviving grandchildren really stepped up to get that involved. I mean, they got her to the hospital and everything, but as far as handling details, they feel like, well, we don't really know enough about her life to like pull together
Yeah.
services and all that.
You need a healthcare proxy. You
But
need a living will.
you have
You
to
need
have
all
those
these
things
things,
done.
and you need to make sure that your parents have that, because we're getting away from what we're doing. But that's the thing is, you need to make sure that your parents plans are. Do they want to be organ donors? Do they not want to be
Do
organ
they want to be
donors?
cremated? Do they
Do
not want
you
to
want
be
to be
cremated?
cremated? Do
A
they,
lot of people being cremated because they didn't make any plans, and so that just
right,
becomes the
Yeah.
right,
default.
I
you know.
mean, the grief is stressful enough, and then you add on all of this extra aggravation that could just dismantle what should be a time of being able to
Celebrate their
breathe
life.
and celebrate their life
And I'm going to
and
tell you
go on.
something. The two things that change people for the worse are death and divorce.
Yeah.
You want to
Mm,
see, so you want to see people get ugly, have somebody get divorced or have somebody die, and you will see people
Real
come out.
drama.
You will see real drama and real ugliness, and people showing their
greed, fighting
greed, their
over people's
backside.
stuff. Yeah, when they're behind. Yeah,
So
yeah, that does happen. And the hard thing is, no one wants to talk about it, and there is a lot of superstition. Now, my mother-in-law, she took me aside one day. She said, "Well, I'm going to tell you where all my papers and everything are, because I can't talk to her about my sons because I know they don't want to talk about it." And she's probably right. They would have been the kind of say, "Oh my, you're gonna live a long time," because they didn't want to face her mortality. But
Yeah.
she knew me as the daughter-in-law could probably deal with it a little better without, getting too emotional and just understanding. Look, we have to handle the business.
Hmm.
Uh, and of course, when the time came, things went smoothly enough. But you do have to make sure that you have those things in place, and then it's always difficult if you have a parent who they're in a state where they can't be taken care of at home anymore. And I know a lot of people struggle with that. They have a home, but you know, for whatever reason, maybe an accident, maybe illness, they need professional care 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And in some cultures, it's just expected. Oh, someone will do it, or the
One
daughter
of the
will do it,
siblings
the
or
daughter-in-law will do it,
something.
one of the siblings. But sometimes nobody in America, it's not designated, and sometimes nobody does it. And then sometimes you don't have the skills to do it. I've known people where maybe their parent uh, got Alzheimer's, and the
that's
personality change
really
just
just
too severe,
that's
and they
really
couldn't do it.
hard.
They found
That
themselves screaming at them and almost
mhm.
hit them, and they're feeling really guilty about it. And they finally had to put them in a facility because they couldn't handle it, and they were really guilty about that. I've seen it happen several times where people realized
And
that,
they're alone. They're
yeah,
like trying to manage this all by themselves.
yeah, and feeling judged, like, "Oh, I'm a terrible child. I can't do this." You're cleaning up after somebody who maybe wets themselves, or or even
Worse.
or worse, and it's it's not like baby poop.
Yeah.
So, that's hard. Then maybe they,
And they feel humiliated, so
yeah,
that does not help. So
it doesn't
sometimes they
help.
may not even tell you, like a
Yeah,
toddler sometimes won't, but
yeah,
this is
and you
not a
smell,
toddler where
yeah,
you could just, scoop them up and throw them in the tub and call it a day.
yeah. So there's
So
that. There's sometimes they might get angry and abusive verbally and at
yes,
you, the caretaker, and you're just a human being. At some point you may snap and say some awful things back, or even get physical, and it happens. So when people get to a point where they realize it's beyond what they can handle emotionally, or even have the skills to handle medical wise, you got to figure out how you're going to either bring in some help, either a home health care person, or maybe even have to move them to a location, and not making a decision. I think one time you said not making a
I'm making a
decision is a
decision.
Is
decision.
a decision.
Decision. Yes.
Yeah, so you just let it stay, and let it stay really stressful. We got to take a break. And when we come back, we'll get a chance to speak to Wanda Carter, soon to be Dr. Wanda, who is, uh, she's had quite a bit of experience with parents and elderly, and helping them to let go of control. And it's not always easy, especially if they've been a very dominating parent. How do you handle it when the roles reverse? So we'll be right back after this quick break. And if you are watching online, we want you to share your experiences. Feel free to comment. We'll share them with our viewing audience. How have you handled it if your parent has gotten to the point where you need to take care of them? We'll be right back. Stay with us.
The Female Solution Global Radio TV Show invites you to an invigorating conversation with our team of hosts Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. Start your week with Monday Morning Mindfulness with Zelda Speaks. Tuesdays, Self-Cell Care with Jody Susan. Wednesdays, Repairing Broken Families with Naima Latif and co-host Kareem Hamid. Thursdays, Soulful Solutions with Dr. Debbie Green. And Fridays, Health and Wellbeing with Beata. Saturdays, tune in 12 noon to 2 p.m. Central Time. First Saturday, Success Strategies with Jana. Second Saturday, Wendy Williams Esquire on relationships. Third Saturday, Move Around with Deborah. And fourth Saturday, Wisdom with Mama D. Join us Sundays, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central Time for Soul Purpose Healing with Beata. Call in and comment 515-605-9325. Press 1 to speak to the host and be a part of the solution.
And we are back, and we'll be joined shortly by Wanda Carter to share some of her experiences in parenting your parent. You know, this is it's challenging when you've had a very strong-willed parent and maybe one that was used to being dominant and maybe even domineering, and then you have to be firm in getting them to do something they don't want to do. And sometimes they can kind of treat you like the defiant child, like, how dare you, I'm your mother, or I'm your father. How would you advise people to handle that when you have to deal with someone and assert your authority and they're not used to you being in authority?
I think you have to do the way you do with small children. You have to do this in a way to make them think that it was their idea. I don't have any particular tricks up my sleeve, but I know that in dealing in a classroom of 30 kindergartners and one of the things that they tell you when you are filling out an application for a teacher's position, one of the top things they say is must have good classroom management skills. That's code for a bunch of naughty children. So you have to learn how to finesse your way, because the whole thing is all about the parent feeling like they're losing their independence and they're still the grown-up here. And sometimes they have a mindset of still treating you, the adult child, like you are a little kid yourself. And so they do not want to be told what to do. And you may have to use that kindergarten teacher skills, not necessarily that voice,
Yeah,
but
because that can be insulting.
in which you're going to help a very dominant personality, a father or a mother who is used to taking command of everything, and kind of helping them to understand that you're helping me by letting me help you.
Yeah.
And I would also say that when you have to have that conversation, have the conversation at a time, like any time when there's conflict. They don't want you to wait till you're really angry and then start yelling, because even if what you're saying is valid, when people are in an argument, you dismiss it as they're just mad. So you sit down with that person and say, listen, you know what? I understand your frustration, but I can do this for you. Can you let me do this for you? It's fine. I have plenty of time to do this. Let me help you. Let me drive you here. And, I can wait. It'll be easier for you. I'll be less worried about you getting there safely. And you can just do this and do it as a way, like Barbara said, so that they realize that you're helping them, because I don't want to worry about you. Well, I'm grown. I know how to. Yes, I understand you do. But, we all need help sometimes. And you have to be able to trust someone sometime. Like with mom, I says, I'm not stealing from you. If you need someone to do your bills, Naima can't be running around and taking whole days to run around and pay your light bill and then your gas bill and all these other kind of things, and then go to the Walgreens that you like, because you don't understand that
all the Walgreens have all
the
this
Walgreens
stuff.
have all of your information. And I had to explain that to her. Well, I don't want everybody knowing my business. All us old Black people, we think everybody is out to get us anyway, probably because they are. But but I had to explain to her, listen, let her get your prescription at the Walgreens closer to where she is living,
Right.
because they already have that information in their computer. And I explained to her, this way I said, when I go down to Florida and I have to have a prescription filled, I can get it done down there.
Yeah.
So, you have to kind of explain. And a lot of times, especially at our age, our parents did not grow, even our generation, our baby boomers, we did not grow up with computers. So a lot of people,
and the internet.
They don't understand how it works.
Yeah.
So
well, we're gonna bring on my dear sister Wanda Carter.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Good.
Wonderful.
It's good to meet you.
Yeah.
You.
Well, Wanda is an amazing woman. She's a television producer. She's also a health professional, but she also, in understanding how seniors sometimes they don't get these things. She's had computer classes for seniors, helping them to really come into the computer age. And she's had the experience of having to parent an older parent, as we all have if they live long enough. And it can be challenging. So, Wanda, thank you so much for coming to share your wisdom.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. Yes.
Yes. We were looking at the issue of how do you handle it when you need to start doing things for your parent and they don't want to let go of control. Things like driving when they know they can't hardly see anymore, and have here, but still want to control where they go. Or, other things like handling their bills and knowing that, they'll forget things. So how did give us an insight on how you handled your experiences?
Well, I'm not so sure that it was that it's the insight you want to hear, but my mother, when she became bedridden, I was director of radiology, and so I would be at work, and I would leave my son and his girlfriend to manage my mother's care, but she wouldn't do anything that they wanted her to do. If they wanted her to turn so they could massage her back or change her linen, she just fought them all the way. And she would say things to my son like, "You're just my grandson, so don't tell me what to do." And she wouldn't do it. So when I get home, then of course I'd have the struggle of trying to get her to do the things that they tried to get her to do. And she would do it, but resistantly. And when they put her in the hospital and told us that we needed to come and see her because she might not, that was probably going to be the last time we see her. My mother told that doctor, "I'll be here till she gets here. Don't worry about it. I'm not going nowhere." She meant she wasn't going nowhere.
I refuse.
Telling the doctor, the doctor had been telling my mother for at least 5 years before she passed, "Do not smoke. You're getting to the point where you can't breathe, so don't smoke." My mother said, "You got to die from something."
Oh, that our father
we heard that.
Yep.
That's what she said. And so then there was no need in trying to convince her to stop, or, because for her health or whatever. She was like, you got to die from something. Everybody dies from something. I choose to die from this. And so she did. So I think that when you're dealing with your parents, we're that's a rough road, because how do you tell your mom, Mom, I think you should stop smoking? I used to tell her that all the time, because I was director of radiology, and I know you shouldn't smoke. My mother said, you gotta die from something. And she kept right on smoking. And so her doctor was a female. She was very, what can I say, kind, sincere about trying to help my mom. But my mom used to tell her, look, ain't no need of you saying that no more. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. And the doctor would be crying, telling me, tell your mother to stop smoking. My mother would be like, tell her to wipe her tears, because I'm gonna do what I want to do. My mother was like that. So it's hard when you are trying to be the parent to your parent, because they still see you as their child, and it's not
As their little child.
Yes, as their little child. And I was the oldest of my siblings, but that didn't mean nothing to my mother. My mother said, girl, go sit down somewhere. I'm gonna smoke this cigarette. And
Yep.
Oh my, yes.
So yes, it's not easy being an adult with an older parent who sees you as their child, and it doesn't matter how old you get, you're still that parent's child.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just may as well deal with that she's the mother, I'm the daughter. I never forget, Sandra was over Sandra,
Oh yeah, Sandra Campbell.
We were in college together, and she was over at the house, and I said something in front of my mother to Sandra. I don't know what I said. To this day, I still don't know what I said, but she said, come here, baby. And I walked, I must have been about 40. I walked over there, and she said, back, right in my mouth. And Sandra said, oh my goodness, your mother just slapped your face. I said, yeah, and what would you like me to do about that?
Wow. Yes.
What would you like me to do? And so I just went on about my day. I mean, that's what she was doing when I was a kid. And so in her mind, she could still do that.
I can smack you in the mouth.
Smack me in my mouth. Boo, right in my mouth. And so there you have it. I like I said, I don't know how much help I'd be with telling you how to deal with your parents.
But that's a real thing, though. I mean,
but it is a real thing.
They don't change.
No,
just because they get older and you need to take care of them, they're still going to be strong-willed, obstinate, stubborn.
That's right.
And if they got a habit, because I mean, didn't we hear that same thing? You got to die from something.
And Daddy used to smoke, because our father had emphysema for 10 years before he passed. But his father had died at 90. So we got cheated out of almost 10 years of his life.
Okay.
Because he died right before he turned 80. But he would smoke a cigarette and then grab his inhaler.
Oh,
yeah. It's like,
yep.
Yeah. So, but how do you, let me ask you this. I know you said you didn't know how much insight you could give us. How did you keep yourself sane throughout this?
Just coming to the realization that my mother was going to smoke. It didn't matter that I was showing her all the statistics that I had learned, that all the information that the doctor had shared with me. It didn't matter, because she said you had to die from something. So she had made her choice. To die from those cigarettes, because she wanted to smoke. She had been smoking, she said, since she was 16. Oh, wow. She was 68, and she wasn't gonna stop. Simple as that. It was just that simple. Even though she was coughing, she could not lay flat. She had to sit up in bed with a pillow behind her, because that's the only way she could really breathe.
Wow.
But that was not enough to stop her from smoking. So people have to make, as adults, we have to make decisions about what we want to do and why. And as long as we can rationalize why we want to do something, we're going to do it if we want to do it. So, and I mean, I had the commissioner on just the other day, and he was talking about, I think he said 10 years ago, he had prostate cancer. And he was saying that his wife took him, I think she took him somewhere. I forgot where she took him, but where she took him,
treatment centers or something.
to a treatment center, yeah, and it was out of the country, and he became a vegan because where she took him, the treatment was raw food. It was raw food. So he takes you through they gave me raw food and soup for breakfast. Then he goes, and then guess what I had for lunch? Raw food and soup for lunch. And then for dinner, I was looking for dinner, and guess what it was? Raw food. And I was like, he had to do that for 3 weeks. And then they started letting them simmer the vegetables.
First
but they were still raw vegetables. That's just steamed. I was like, wow. And so after that, his prostate cleared up. I don't know, maybe it took him a couple of years or whatever, but he became a vegan, and he's never gone back.
Well, that's the thing.
He was grateful,
I mean, and a lot of people get really frustrated when they can't get their spouse or their parent to do something simple like change your diet that could change your life. But they like to eat what they like to eat because, I mean, that was a struggle I had with our father, because I kept telling him, you can reverse diabetes. The doctors will never tell you can reverse it because they want you to keep taking insulin.
Exactly.
You change your diet. And what's her name? Dr. Beverly Nichols.
Yes.
And now she had all kinds of things to help you reverse diabetes and all of that. And he just was, one of these days I'll try it. Well, I'll try it.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to, change the diet and give up the sugary snacks and just the whole routine of pricking yourself, testing your blood sugar. And the thing about it, doctors will tell you, they will program you to think, well, if you've got diabetes, eventually you're going to have a limb cut off.
Yeah.
And so people just feel like, well, why bother changing my diet?
Which happens in Black communities more than any other communities.
Yes.
We tend to be the ones who lose limbs.
Yes. And all of these kidney centers popping up everywhere.
Yes.
I mean, it's almost like when I was a child, I didn't hear anything about diabetes or high blood pressure. I never heard my mother or my father talk about that. But today, it's like
everybody,
every other
younger and younger, even with children.
Yes, even children.
Yes.
So it's got to be what we're consuming.
Yeah.
But, after talking to the commissioner yesterday and finding that he works for the Water Reclamation Department, and that I didn't know that the water department was divided into 2 different entities. Did you know that?
I didn't know that, and I didn't know that their primary thing is to clean the water that we drink.
Water reclamation has nothing to do with the water we drink.
Really?
The City of Chicago Water Department deals with our drinking water. The Department of Water Reclamation for Greater Chicago, they deal with our waste. They deal with our urine and our fecal material. They treat that and release it back into the lake and release it, and it goes back into the ocean, to the river, and everything's just recycled. I was like, I didn't know
because there is no new water being made. This is what's going on.
Right.
All the water that we have is all the water that is on Earth. There is no new water.
That's true. It goes up to the clouds, it comes back down, but there's no new water.
So we're eating and drinking everything that goes in our mouths and comes out the other end. They are now, he said, going to be using human waste to fertilize our food. In the past, they've been using animal waste.
Now
they're going to use our waste.
Well, now
and
my understanding
fertilize
is
our
that
food.
my understanding is that if you're a carnivore, your waste doesn't fertilize plants. That's what I was told. I think some kind of scientific study
There's
about
different
that.
ways that they
Just
can
have to
do
treat the
that.
waste.
Yeah, that there's different treatments that they do. They're also talking about using waste for fuel.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
so
they
there
have
are
they
other
have they have to
things.
learn how to do
Yes,
that. So
yes.
yeah,
I was
I,
like,
I'd
oh
rather
my
use
goodness.
fuel.
When you hear that, we all know that we are what we eat, but when you hear it so vividly, so
Yeah, really.
what comes out that end, they gonna treat it and put it back out there, and we gonna
Eat it again.
test it all over again. I was like, oh my God, I don't think I want to eat anymore.
Good greenness, people.
And
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 I
and yeah,
know.
yes. And try explaining that to your elderly parents.
Oh no.
Oh my,
My
won't
father
get
used
that.
to say, his father cooked pig foot, pig ears.
Mhm.
They did all the tongue. They cooked everything.
Yep.
And I
Everything.
was like, oh
Yep.
my God, I can't eat that. He was like, girl, you better grow up and learn how to eat.
Woo!
Eat like this all our life. Oh,
Yes,
and
that's the
my
key.
Yes.
mother was 90-something years. Oh, okay. No
Yep.
problem.
Yep. And that's
Don't
Heard
make
that
yourself
speech.
feel no better.
Yeah, I mean the thing about it, yeah, we might have had grandparents and great grandparents who lived long, but what was the quality of their life if they were suffering from diabetes and lost
Yes.
eyesight because of diabetes and kidney failure? Yeah, you can live a long time, and
stroke.
the hospitals will keep you
Yeah.
living as long as you got insurance because they're getting
Right.
paid. But but what is your quality of life if you're sick because of what you ate? And that's been the hardest thing. If you're trying to convince an elderly parent to change that diet, that soul food diet,
That's
and just
right. Oh
you
man.
can reverse all of these age-related illnesses if you will just reverse something. If you would just change what you eat.
Yes.
My
Well, just
grandmother ate
eating.
like chicken, and my mama ate like chicken. They live to be 95 years old. And they boil up them
Yeah.
neck bones
I
and
know.
Yep.
just ignore you.
Yep.
That's
So, I
right.
mean, what do? I guess you just have to, like you say, just resign yourself to the fact that this is the choice that they have made. They want to enjoy their food, however nasty it is, and just, let them be. And that's the
That's all you
hardest
can
thing
do.
to do.
That's all you can do. That's it. I mean, so a friend of mine was telling me that her parents used to take they had all these prescription pills that they took, and
Oh yeah.
when they passed away, the prescription pills were in their waist. You could see the pills had not dissolved.
Wow.
So what does that say? All these pills they're giving us. What I mean, if
Yeah.
we're not digesting it,
And it's hard to dispose of those
yeah, they said
medications.
they cannot treat pills. What do they call it? Pharmaceuticals.
Right.
They
Right.
said
Right.
when they treat the waste, they
Mhm.
cannot treat the pharmaceuticals. So what does that say? If
Wow.
you're on 15 drugs in the morning and 15 drugs in the evening, you pass away, your waste, those pills are in your waste and they can't treat it. So it just gets recycled.
Wow.
Yes.
Isn't that something?
And
So if
and
you
and
got
try
if your
don't flush your old medications either because
down
that goes
the
into
floor,
the
don't
water.
do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
And
Deep in our drinking water. And
Because
that's
yep.
if
what's
you
killing a
do it,
lot of the fish,
that's
too.
right.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
right.
We giving the fish all kinds of illnesses
Human
because
Yes.
diseases.
yes,
Yeah,
And
human
then you
disease.
eating the fish. Then you eat the fish,
mhm,
and you
because
could
that's supposed to be healthy.
Right.
yes,
Yeah. Fish is healthy, right? And full of pills.
full of
And, and
pills.
and and all of those pharmaceuticals, that's what actually ends up damaging your kidneys because they
Yes,
can't clean,
yes.
And
your
your
blood.
liver
If,
cannot
if,
clean
if,
Your liver
if
can't purify your blood. So all those things that we're taking in terms of medications, and they program you to think that when you get older, that's what you're supposed to do is just have a bunch of pills.
exactly, yeah,
I mean, that's what I thought. I thought that when you get older, you lose all your teeth, and so you're gonna have to buy some teeth.
but you
Uh,
don't have to.
you have,
You should die with all the teeth you have.
you should die with all your teeth. You can die with all your organs. I
yes,
mean, they can all be healthy. They don't have to be
yes,
diseased. They don't teach you.
People go on regular checkups. Some people, they refuse to have a regular
You need to go
checkup
to a
and
doctor.
make sure that they are maintaining good health. That's one of the things that some older people, I don't need no
Right.
doctor.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Refuse
Yeah.
to go to the
That's
doctor.
so
That's
true.
another thing. And you can't make them go,
Thank you. Thank
And,
you.
and so that just another. Sometimes I think it's fear that they might get bad news. It's like, well, if I don't know about it, then I'll be
Then
fine.
it won't
Can't hurt me
happen.
if I
It
don't
Yes.
know.
won't happen.
Well, it's
They,
like
they're,
they
they're,
show
they're
up.
playing hide and seek.
That's
Yeah,
it.
because they
Yeah.
go there, they find something. See, I told you.
It's all your fault because you took me now. Now they tell me some bad news.
So true, so true. Oh man, it is just horrible. I don't know. All I have learned to do is just pray for my elders, because sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't.
Right.
And
Right.
how are you going to argue with somebody that's twice your age and that may have changed, combed your hair, helped you get dressed or whatever? Now you tall as they are, and you trying to tell them something, they looking at you like, go sit down, little girl. I'm 71, but go sit down, little girl. I was like, oh my goodness. And they mean that, because they're not going to listen to what you have to say.
Yeah.
They've been doing this all their life. It's kept them thus far. And you're just bringing in all this new tech. Just because you're a director of radiology doesn't mean you know anything.
Right.
You don't know nothing.
Yeah.
That you go tell them, they will listen to you. But
Right. I'm your mama.
I'm your mama. I'm your mama, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, mama, forget it. Forget it.
I think you probably had the best answer. Just pray for them, because they're
Right.
going to make their decisions.
They won't listen. She wouldn't.
Gently try to suggest things.
And
Help them
sometimes, sometimes I think if we get someone who is closer to their age,
Maybe they
that
might.
they might listen a
friend or a
little bit, a
sibling.
friend, a
Friend.
sibling, somebody from their church, somebody that is kind of going through the same thing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
might be able to get them to listen, because it's like back in teenagers, like that your teenagers would listen to their peers more than they would listen to
That's
their
right.
parents.
Think
Because
about
they
it
think, I says, yeah, because it's the blind leading the blind back then. But
yes.
sometimes, I think it's really frustrating, and we have to acknowledge our frustration
Yes.
and try to figure out ways around that, so that we
That's
don't
right.
become abusive, because
Yes.
it's real hard. It's real hard
real
to
hard.
say,
So true. So
Especially if they get
Ooh.
older and they've had that habit of hitting, like you say, Wanda.
Like my father, he used to tell my brothers when they pee in the bed, he would spank them or whatever. And so when he got to be, they did a bypass on him just before he passed away, and they took the vessel, an organ, a limb from, not a limb, Lord, I miss
a
a
vein.
vein from his leg,
Right.
and put it in his chest.
Right there.
And so they told us that if we took him off the respirator to take him home, because he wanted to go home, that he wasn't going to make it 24 hours. He said they don't know what the hell they're talking about. I'm going home. So we ordered the ambulance and we took him home. So the first day he's at my house. Now he's got 4 sons. Everybody's grown, but he came home with me. So he's in a wheelchair, and I'm trying to, he evacuates on himself, moves his bowels, and I'm trying to move him from the wheelchair to the bed. And so I'm saying, come on, Dad, let's roll over. He took his cane and hit me with that cane and told me, call my brothers, because I wasn't changing his diaper. I was like, now you used to whoop my brother's butt because they peed on themselves, and now you won't let me change your diaper. I was so upset. I was like,
I can imagine.
I'm a little girl. I watched him whoop them because they peed on themselves. Now you peed. I'm just trying to help you change. And he hit me with that stick. I was like, call my brother. Come get your dad.
Wow, I'm done.
Come get your dad, because he hit me with this stick. And we ain't going to make it.
That's a hard thing too, because it does happen. Your bladder gets weaker sometimes.
Yeah.
And when you got to deal with an adult that needs changing.
Oh,
you
they're not used to you looking. He wasn't used to me looking at his bottom. He was like,
Yeah.
took that stick, bam, don't touch my. I was like, just trying to change your diaper. Oh,
That's the thing though. Sometimes you have to change the opposite sex parent,
yeah.
and they can't handle that. And that's another thing to think about. Maybe you have to have somebody on standby for those
Come
situations.
on, I'm telling you, I had to call my brothers because that man hit me. He hit me with that stick. You don't know how hard it was for me not to take that stick and hit him back. But I know I didn't do it. But he popped me so hard, bam! I was like, oh,
The reflex would have been,
oh,
but
Yep.
yeah.
oh my goodness.
And that's what happens sometimes. The reflex when they hit is to
Yes.
hit back.
Is to hit
Now
back,
we're grown,
yes.
and it can happen.
Yeah.
But all of us at some point are going to have to go through this if our parents live long enough, and we
That's
have to brace ourselves for seeing them become more of the personality that they always were.
Always were.
If they were domineering and obstinate, just strong-willed, just prepare for it, and sometimes you just have to pray.
That's right.
Anyway, we got to go. We want to remind you all to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, 3 Black Moms. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, Wanda. We appreciate
Thank you for inviting me, ladies. It's a pleasure. I hope I can depart some kind of wisdom.
Oh, yes. You made us feel better because we
Yeah.
the same thing.
That'll work. Thank you, ladies. You guys have a great night, okay?
Thank
You
you.
too.
Thank you.
And until next time, I'm Naima.
All right.
I'm Cheryl.
I'm Wanda.
And I'm Barbara. You've just seen us on 3 Black Moms.
Oh, that's
Pro Black Moms.
bye, ladies.
Bye.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're 3 Black Moms.